Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to walk you through the code behind the South African ID verifier. We'll go through it step by step so you understand how it works. No black boxes, just clear Python logic. So without any further ado, let's get started. We'll start by importing the datetime module, which will help us check if the date in the ID number is valid. So we're going to say import datetime. Next, we're going to define a function called isValid that takes in the ID number as an input and returns whether or not it's valid and why it's not valid. In this parentheses, we're going to have ID number. Next, we're going to create an if statement that checks if the input contains only digits, because the South African ID number only contains digits. So we're going to say if ID number dot isDigit return false, ID number must contain only digits. Alright, now let's check the length of the ID number. A valid South African ID number must have exactly 13 digits, not more, not less. So in the code we'll say if the length of the ID number is not equal to 13, return the message the ID number must be 13 digits long. This is a simple way to make sure that the user has entered the right number of digits before going any further. Now comes the interesting part. We're going to slice the ID number to extract the date of birth. We'll start with the birth year. We'll create a variable called birth year and we'll set it to this. What this means is that we're grabbing the first two digits of the ID number from index 0 up to, but not including index 2. In Python, this technique is called slicing. So ID number 0 and 2, which gives us the characters from the 0th position, which is the very first digit, up to the second one. Next, we'll get the birth month using the same method. We'll create a variable called birth month and we'll set it to this. This slice starts at index 2 and goes up to index 4. So it's giving us the third and fourth digits, which represent the month. And finally, we're going to extract the birthday. So I'm going to create another variable and we're going to call it birthday. When I set this equal to this, and this means we're slicing from index 4 to index 6. And those tell us the day of birth. So to sum it up, the first two digits are the year, the next two are the month, and the following two are the day. Each one is extracted using this slicing, and the pattern is always start index, up to but not including the end index. And that's how we break down the ID number and pull out the date of birth using Python. The seventh digit tells us the gender. Anything 5 and above is male. So in Python, we're going to create another variable and we're going to call it gender digit, and we're going to set it to this. What this line does is simple but important. We're creating a variable called gender digit and we're assigning it the seventh digit in the ID number, because in Python counting starts at 0, not at 1. So ID number 6 means which is actually the seventh digit on the ID number. This digit will help us figure out the person's gender, and here's how it works. If the digit is between 0 and 4, the person is a female, and if it's between 5 and 9, the person is a male. That's why we extracted using this line. It gives us the number we need to determine the gender later in the code. And by wrapping it with this integer function, we're making sure that we treat that digit as a number and not just a character. Next, we're going to move on to some other digits in the ID number that carries very special meanings. We're going to start off by creating a variable called citizenship digit, and we're going to set it to this. Here we're creating a variable called citizenship digit, and we're grabbing the 11th digit from the ID number. Again, it's index 10 because we start counting from 0 in Python. This digit tells us whether the person is a South African citizen or not. If the digit is 0, it means the person is a South African citizen. If it's 1, it usually means they're a permanent resident or a non-citizen. We store that digit so we can check it later and confirm whether to accept or reject the ID based on citizenship. Then we're going to create another variable and we're going to call it historical digit, and we're going to set it to this. This one grabs the 12th digit of the ID number, so that's index 11. This digit is known as the historical digit. In modern terms, it doesn't really serve a critical purpose anymore. It was originally used for race classification under the apartheid system. Today it's generally a placeholder, and in this program we've decided to only accept the value 8 in this position. That way we keep things simple and ensure that we're working with the current valid ID formats. Alright, so let's put all the pieces together. Earlier in the code, we extracted two digits from the year, for example 99 or 05. But because we can't stop there, we need to know whether 05 means 1905 or 2005. So how do we figure this out? We're going to start off by creating a variable, and we're going to call this variable current year, and we're going to set it to datetime.now.year%100. And we're using this Python datetime module to get the current year, but we only want the last two digits. So if the year is 2024, it gives us 24. Now we're going to create a variable and we're going to call it full year. We're going to set it to 2000 plus birth year, and if the birth year is less or equal to the current year, else 1900 plus birth year. This is a clever trick. We check if the birth year is less or equal to the current year. Like if it's 05, 10, 22, we assume that the person was born in the 2000s. Otherwise, if it's a bigger number like 75, 89 or 99, we'll assume that they were born in the 1900s. This lets us automatically figure out whether to use 19 or 20 without asking the user. Next, we're going to create another variable and we're going to call it date of birth. And we're going to set it to equal to datetime.datetime, and in these parentheses, full year, birth month, and birthday. And then we need to accept errors. We're going to say accept value error, return false, invalid birth date in ID. What we're doing here is trying to create a proper date using the year, month, and the day we got from the ID number. But here's the thing, not all combinations of day, month, and year are valid. For example, there's no such date as the 31st of February. So if someone types in a bogus ID, Python will throw an error here, and we'll catch it using this try and accept. If the date is valid, we stop right there and return an error. Next, we check the 11th digit, which is the citizenship digit. We're going to say if citizenship digit not in, and in these square brackets will have 0 and 1, return false. 11th digit must be 0 or 1 whether citizen or non-citizen. It must be a 0 for a South African citizen or a 1 for a non-citizen or resident. If anything else like a 3 or 7, then the ID is invalid. Then we check the 12th digit, also known as the historical digit. If the historical digit is not equal to 8, return false. 12th digit must be 8 for this program, as we explained earlier. This digit doesn't have a major purpose anymore, but in our program, we've decided to keep it as 8 to keep things simple and modern. If everything checks out, we calculate the gender and the citizenship status. We're going to create a variable and we're going to call it gender. And I'm going to set this variable to male if gender digit is less than 5, otherwise the person is a female. We're going to create a variable and we're going to call it citizenship, and I'll set it to SA citizen if citizenship digit equals 0, else not an SA citizen. We're going to create a variable and we're going to call it date of birth string, but I'm going to shorten it to DOBSTR, and we're going to set it to the date of birth format, which is going to be day, month, and year. Finally, we return all this useful information in the form of a dictionary. So I'm going to say return true date of birth and DOB string, gender and gender, citizenship and citizenship, if the ID is valid and the function returns true and the person's full information. Now let's talk about the main part of the program that runs when we start the file. We're going to start off by creating a while loop saying while true, and in this while loop we're going to create a variable called user input, and we're going to prompt the user to enter their 13-digit South African ID number, and you're going to have a dot strip here at the end. So in this while loop we'll keep asking the user to enter their ID number non-stop, or at least every round. We'll also strip the input to remove any accidental spaces. So if the user tries to be funny and adds random spaces when entering their ID number, this will remove them. Next, we pass that input into our valid ID function. We're going to say if valid result equals is valid ID user input. If the ID is valid, we print ID number is valid. We also print the date of birth as well as their gender and the citizenship status. We grab all of this information using an F string. But if it's invalid, we print invalid ID number, please try again, and we show them the specific reason why it was rejected and give them a choice to try again. And that's how the SAID number verifier works. It checks the structure of the ID, validates the date, and even decodes some personal information like gender and citizenship, all with simple Python. If you want to add a GUI or take it to the next level, let me know in the comments. By the way, I'll link the full code in the description of this video. And that's it for this one. If you enjoyed or found this video helpful in any way, shape, or form, consider leaving a like and subscribing. Turn on post notifications to be the first to know when I upload a new video. Also, if you have any constructive criticism or any questions or anything, comment them down below. And until next time, thanks for watching. Peace.